question, Deputy Martin. Taoiseach, excuse me.
Propose to take questions 10 to 13 together. The North East Inner City Programme Implementation Board, chaired by Michael Stone, continues to oversee implementation of the 24 actions set out in the Mulvey Report and to progress work in relation to Dublin North East Inner Cities Initiative. My department is closely involved with the work of the board and the local programme office, and the chair of the board reports on a regular basis to an oversight group of senior officials chaired by the Secretary General of my department. This ensures strong and active participation by all relevant government departments and agencies and deals with any structural barriers or issues highlighted by the board. From the outset of this initiative, there has been targeted community engagement and a focus on improving supports and facilities for a wide range of projects and services. One of the main aims of this initiative is to ensure that the area is safe for families, residents and people who work there. Since the start of this year, 51 new Gardaí have been assigned to the area to provide reassurance to residents. A Garda community support vehicle, which is expected to be a major asset for the community and community policing, has been deployed. Increased patrols targeting drug dealing and antisocial behaviour black spots have also started to make a real and noticeable difference. The board is also working hard in several other areas. Efforts to ensure employment opportunities are maximised for local people have resulted in the establishment of a single employment and engagement team composed of 5 staff. Another key objective is to improve the physical environment and build a sense of pride in the area. Recent improvements include the completion of a draft greening strategy by Dublin City Council, the installation of a new playground in Sheriff Street, and the commencement of phase 2 of the North Canal cycleway, which is a very fine project. It also important that statutory and voluntary services work effectively together, and at a recent conference held in Croke Park, we examined ways in which children and youth services could work and collaborate better, with recommendations from the conference expected in the coming weeks. Over recent months, the board has placed an emphasis on ensuring that the longer-term actions required to make a fundamental and transformational change to the area are initiated and implemented. Community involvement and engagement is crucial to the success of the initiative, and the board is committed to a policy of openness and transparency. For these reasons, the community and general public have been kept up to date with developments through the board's website, which is www.neic.ie, local newsletter drops and regular community events. Government is committed to supporting and investing in Dublin's North East Inner City community and ensuring that Michael Stone and the board have the necessary resources to help make the area a much better place for people to live and work.
Thank you, Taoiseach. As we're a little bit behind, I'll just ask members to please adhere to your time. Deputy Martin.
Thank you very much indeed. Taoiseach, it's now 7 years since Fine Gael decided to abolish what had been a very successful approach to development in disadvantaged communities in general, and especially in communities hit by drug abuse. The new approach of devolving everything to local authorities has narrowed the work, and there are very serious signs of both a lack of momentum and new pressures in many communities. I would appreciate if you would agree, Taoiseach, to an independent evaluation of the new development approach versus the one which was ended in your first year in office. And can you tell us why so many communities are feeling increasingly helpless in the face of the spread of hard drugs into new areas? I met recently, Taoiseach, with the Sean O'Casey Community Centre, with the chairman there, Willie Dwyer, and Fran Laycock, the manager, and they've been excluded from the North East area, or approach in terms of the dividing line. Now, the community centre there is fantastic. Incredible work. It's opened in 2009.
Thank you, Deputy. To
be fair, the former Taoiseach Berta Hearn had a particular role and was very helpful in getting it together. Senior daycare citizens centre, sporting, cultural, great theatre there, and they have no real proper stream of funding coming into them. And it is exactly the type of centre that I would have thought.
Deputy, I'm not calling on Deputy McDonald.
I know, it's my main question.
You're over time, Deputy. I warned you.
We have a way of operating here, Chairman. I think you need to calm it. I just want to put the final question to the Taoiseach.
I gave you a minute and a half in the last segment.
Take your seat. People have gone 5. Just if we can put the last question.
Deputy, please.
Taoiseach, would you agree that this centre, the Sean Casey Community Centre, should be included in the overall funding resources that the North Inner City Forum has made available to other groups and companies, and I would appreciate if you'd look into it.
Deputy McDonald.
So of course the difficulty with the Sean O'Casey Centre in East Wall is that the the boundary for this initiative was very arbitrarily drawn, and it missed the dynamic between, interlocking parts of the inner city. So I support Deputy Martin's observations in that regard. I only have a limited time, so I just want to say this. You talk about improvements to the physical environment. Of course, that is very welcome. There's some incredibly innovative approaches. One, my particular favourite, is called city orchards, which is the use of derelict spaces for apple trees and pear trees, and involves education as well as precinct improvements, all of which is good. But the bottom line here is the big physical improvement that needs to happen in the North Inner City, which I am proud to represent, is housing. So can I mention the words Ballybock House? I could mention other blocks of flats. They're small, they're cramped, they're damp. I've placed on the record of the Dáil before, Cathaoirleach, the fact that many families don't have a kitchen table because there isn't room in their flats. So they don't have a place where the children have a meal together with their parents, nowhere to do the rubber wallia. All of us that have families understand the disaster that is. So it's all about housing, and if we're not prepared to invest big in regeneration and housing, we're at nothing in the North Inner City.
Thank you very much. I now call on Deputy Burton, please.
Thank you. Taoiseach, first of all, notwithstanding the good work being done by the initiative and the forum, the fact is that much of the North Inner City has far too many derelict sites, and while student accommodation blocks are literally flying up and being built, completed and opened within a 2-year, 18-month, 2-month period, far too many families feel a level of helplessness and hopelessness about the fact that relatively few, some, but relatively few, either completely refurbished homes and flats are coming online, or new builds are coming online. Now, I think one of the problems that's facing the building industry, and I asked you about previously, is that we have a complete lack of apprenticeship places. In the North Inner City, we have higher than usual unemployment, particularly among young people and particularly among young men. In terms of, for instance, construction trades, and in terms of the motor trade, there are a lot of young people, young men and young women, who would give their eye teeth to get an apprenticeship.
Okay. Thank you,
Yet under your government's handling of Solace, the level of apprenticeships is literally like something out of a bygone age. So Taoiseach, can I ask you, can you focus on the fact that a lot of people in the North Inner City, notwithstanding the great fall in unemployment, are still unemployed or still lacking access to training programmes? And can you actually do something about that, particularly in terms of boosting large-scale numbers of apprentices who would then be available to build the houses that we need?
Deputy Howlin, please.
This is a very important project, a demonstration project in many ways that had cross-party support. It was actually very strongly led by our predecessor, Taoiseach Kenny, and I think we really need to drive it. I want to ask you just about capital works that were promised. I know the Lourdes Daycare Centre in Sean McDermott Street is a capital project that has been allocated 450,000, and that's long overdue. Other major capital referenced already, the Rutland Street School, that's to be a multi-purpose facility with community a community base for the area. The Magdalen Convent and its ground, the magnificent but dilapidated Aldborough House, which I understand is subject to separate planning. When will we see these projects actually take shape? And in terms of the long term, Taoiseach, can I ask your view, is it envisaged that this project would be put on a statutory basis, or is it timelined? And can I ask you why the only body representing the public, the North Inner City Community Coalition, hasn't actually met in 6 months?
Thank you very much.
I'm good on time.
You're excellent. Thank you very much. Taoiseach, please.
Thanks very much, Cathaoirleach. Just in relation to including the Sean O'Casey Community Centre, certainly happy to have my my people examine that and to ask Michael Stone what his assessment would be of doing that. As is always the case, you have to draw a boundary somewhere, and no matter where you draw a boundary, there will always be something on the wrong side of the boundary. But boundaries can be changed where it makes sense, and I certainly commit to deputies that we will have that matter examined. In relation to housing stock, there are a number of housing bodies in partnership with Dublin City Council which are working to deliver 4 main housing regeneration schemes in the area. These schemes are at various stages of redevelopment, with 228 units expected to be delivered. They are as follows: 80 units in a mix of 1 to 4 bed apartments for the refurbishment of St Mary's Mansions by Clúid Housing. The demolition phase is almost complete, and building works are expected to be completed in August 2019. 72 units of Croke Villas redevelopment, with the majority of works expected to be completed by the end of this year. 47 apartments in Railway Street by Circle Voluntary Housing Association, with planning applications expected by the end of this year, and construction completed and homes ready for occupation in the second quarter of 2021. And 29 older persons units by Oakley Housing Association. Works have commenced on this site already, and it's expected that the homes will be made available to older people living in the area in the fourth quarter of 2019, thus freeing up other properties for families on the housing list. There will of course be more after this, and I'd strongly encourage Dublin City Council to come forward with more plans to regenerate their existing housing estate. Plans such as O'Devany Gardens, plans such as Dolphin, plans such as Charlemont Street, where we can see existing developments, our old developments being
Deputy Burton, please.
Yeah, they have to be built first, and there's 50 under construction. It's
Deputy Burton, please.
Of half of which the deputy was in government for, but we'll let that be forgotten. I'm sure she'd like it to.
Deputy Burton, please. Deputy Burton. Deputy, please.
Just in relation to Deputy Burton's other questions. The what? Just in relation to Deputy Burton's other questions, I know the Deputy will be delighted to know that the education budget for 2019 provides for 1,000 additional apprenticeships, and of course the YES programme as well, and that's under the Department of Social Protection, a dedicated programme for the long-term unemployed. So the Deputy will have an opportunity to show her support for additional apprenticeships and additional help for young unemployed by voting for the appropriations bill this year and not against it.
Thank you, Taoiseach. That concludes